Watch Willow. Welcome to the Church of Mabus radio show. Coming at you Friday and live. We haven't died yet from nuclear holocaust, and we're marching with the apocalypse. And we got to watch Willow up good. Willow up good. Willow Bafmada. It's on Warwick Davis. It's on Disney right now. I haven't seen it yet. I still need to watch Wednesday. I haven't watched that yet. I finished Chucky. I like that. It's pretty crazy. It's not bad. It's a series, so it's just the second season just ended, but it was a series, and it's actually doing very well. Like it's getting good reviews, which is not abnormal for Chucky. but it's got Jennifer Tilly in it. It's got a bunch of one of the guys from Sopranos. I forget his name. Joe Pant. I forget which one. The one that they cut up and put in a bag or whatever. I think. but they had the people from that movie Bound or Unbound with Jennifer Tilly and Gina Gershon, some like lesbian movie that's known for real sexual weird stuff. I saw it a million years ago, but they had the whole cast on an episode that was kind of weird. It's worth watching. I mean, it would surprise you. There's a Hannibal Chucky. There's a Muscle Chucky. Like there's different Chuckies. He has an army. But the best part is Brad Dourif and his daughter. That's the best part. That's the best part.
He's from West Virginia, I believe.
Yeah, it's good.
He's
we got
good. He's real good.
Wham here with us tonight. Andrew Colvin's here. Return of Andy Colvin. And I guess my first question, we were just off the cuff talking about kooky energy weapon stuff. And I mean, right now, China supposedly, and I don't know why the hell they did this, but I think it's true. Didn't they resurrect like a second sun? So who's to say these people are not trying to fry us right now with weird energy weapons? I don't know, but something seems weird. Everybody's aggressive. People trying to kill comedians, and I'm going nuts. Everybody's going nuts. Just seems something's off. I don't know. I even saw a thing about someone saying cosmic rays are real bad right now and can do that stuff. But energy weapons, I know it's a lot to get into, but off the cuff, what do you think about that stuff? And what is the deal with the second sun? Why would you even do that? I don't understand. It's weird.
Well, a lot of the old memes and conspiracies have been regurgitated, and not maybe for good reason. I'm sure they're still doing that research. As I mentioned, they're doing it as part of the brain-body research. When you have a limb doesn't work, you can put a sensor in the brain that speaks remotely to the body part, gets the muscles to work down there. I just saw a show in Germany where they put on these helmets on these soldiers that messed them all up, and then they got injured, and then they tried to fix it with the remote implant and all this stuff. And it's no doubt it's because it's never been resolved, right? The mind control stuff never got resolved, and it was almost about to be resolved around 2008, 2009, because people were like, these UFO abductions are the government, right? It started to become more clear. After they put a bunch of red herring people out there to confuse everything, it started to become apparent. So, and they blamed it all on Bud Hopkins and David Jacobs. Hopkins died and Jacobs somehow survived that.
Yeah.
And then they went to Ancient Aliens the next year, or that year, somewhere around there. And it took the heat off of the government. I don't think we'll ever get that back. Well, maybe if people are still complaining about the energy weapons, but that doesn't really connect to the UFO thing as much. So people may not ever discover what happened with the UFO abductions.
I've heard them talk about MK Ultra, like shooting into people and making them school shooters and stuff. Like that's the conspiracy stuff.
Right.
You know, it's on the fringe, I'm sure, but who knows? I mean, they can do. I heard, and you know more about this probably, or heard more about it than I have, but haven't they confirmed that satellites can possibly do crop circles or something?
Dude, I've been saying that for 25 years. It's satellites. It's testing the microwaves. And nobody agreed with me until Jacques Vallée recently did. And then suddenly, satellites. Duh. Where were you all that? I mean, people, they just don't think logically in this field. That's the purpose of the title of my show. Pseudoscience has lost its way.
and definitely good to have you here to get started. And I know I saw on the Ancient Apocalypse, which is fun to watch, Stone with the Graham Hancock.
Stoned.
Seems like he's alluding to giants, like the aliens from Ancient Aliens. Like they're showing pictures of giants. Like he's saying giants are doing this, or because he's showing a lot of giant illustrations. But he said that he's not a pseudoscientist. Like he kind of treated it like a bad word, I guess. Like he was not that. He was an investigative reporter or whatever. But tell us about pseudoscience. What is it for the stoners?
Pseudoscience used to try to adhere to academic standards to some degree. People would write books, articles, try to do some research, and there was a lot of pressure on certain fields to become sciences, and they eventually did, but they had to go through that pseudoscience period. And so we're here at a point where there's not even any pseudoscience happening. It's just clicks and social media. And I think that's by design. And I kind of thought we should go back in time because there's going to be a lot of people that don't know who I am because this 10-year embargo on having Andy Colvin on. I'm like the most hated man in the paranormal. Was it 10 years ago that I was on your show last?
I don't know. I'd have to really dig. I mean, it's been a little while for sure. But I don't think it's been that long. I can find out.
We just transcribed what I thought was our last show from 2013, but there might be another one in there.
I know I always come across that Rita Lewis one we did on YouTube.
Oh, yeah. The Bigfoot I have that. Rita Louise.
Yeah.
You have that?
It's on YouTube, I believe.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Yeah, unless she took it down. Which, I mean, I saw it somewhere. Like it came up in a weird way from a search or something. So it's out there.
I thought I would just kind of do a little timeline, or at least first I'll talk about what I'm working on, or maybe I should wait on that. But this interview will probably be the last one in this book that we're finishing up because it goes from like 2007 to now. All the shows that I've done that were not on the grassy knoll. Then there's another book coming out with all the interviews from like 2011 that I did with all the women researchers that were really great. There were some great researchers back then. Some of them are no longer with us. But shows that I did with other people, like that you hosted for me, Jeff, and we brought a few people on, and I was like in the cloakroom.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a book called That Was the Week That Wasn't, because we tried to do 50 interviews, mostly with women, over the course of a year. We didn't make it, but we got close, and we did a few more after, and we'll probably pull a few from earlier and get those all together. And then a book of Mothy Talk, just all the stuff that went on the Mothy Talk list, which Wham was on most of the time. And I don't know about you, Jeffrey. Weird stuff happened on there.
Oh, yeah.
Like Eugenia Macer's story, as she became getting closer to dying, she started thinking I was a devil. And
yeah,
I think there's a thing behind that. I think there's been like a long-term manipulation of the Mothman field, for sure. And we can get into that later.
I also think, though, that she was having some problems. I mean, like physical problems, because
Right.
I was in some contact with her off, because I only lived like 9 miles from her. And there's, I think that in the last 2 or 3 years of her life, I think she might have been having like strokes or something. Something was going on in her. And because she got paranoid about a lot of things, not just you.
Right.
So
I've had people, I get called devil from a particular person a lot lately.
Well, it's funny because she had related to me a story long before that, probably mentioned it on Mothy Talk, where Lauren Coleman had warned her off of John Keel in the late 60s, saying Keel is dangerous.
Right.
And Coleman's done the same thing with me. He's dangerous, but he's a hermit. That's the other story they have out for me. He's a hermit. That's why he doesn't appear on any shows. It's not because we're keeping him off shows. He's a hermit. Well, how do you be a hermit when you're like raising 3 kids and you're married and working and all that? It's ridiculous. The other thing that happened in these last 10 years, is I finished up the Mothman's photographer stuff with some Tessa Dick stuff. We met her in 2013. And then we did a couple of new episodes recently, and that's all up on YouTube now. And a lot of the younger people have probably never heard of it, because in the old days, you could only buy it on DVD, and it was pretty expensive because it's very long. But that's up now for free. And then all the Grassy Knoll shows that went into my books are up on YouTube for free. And probably going to do a revision of the Mothman trilogy, the Mothman's photographer, to make it shorter and easier for people to understand. Because I think a lot of people never read it. Even people that are researchers, especially if they're arguing with you on a list. Oh, well, I've read your work and I know all about it. Okay, well, but I've never heard you ever ask one question about my research. And particularly if you're like a ritual occultist, why haven't you ever asked me how I conjured up Mothman? It's like no one has ever asked that. There's so many simple, basic questions that have never been asked.
How did you conjure up Mothman? I still have that picture you gave me of the Polaroid.
It's all Point Pleasant. These 2 or 3 old ladies now that they just do over and over again. These filmmakers absolutely refuse to cover anything else. Anything from 30 miles down the road. No, that's not Point Pleasant. We can't go there. And they're actually afraid to do it. And they're actually afraid of me, I think, I guess. I mean, I can understand. It sounds like it's that standard, he's dangerous, he's bad news. I know there was one researcher that kept telling me that Jeffrey was bad news. It's like, no, Jeffrey should be on Coast to Coast. That man is done. As you can see now that we're on YouTube, this is the very first YouTube show I've done where you can actually see who I am. It's a big moment. How am I coming across?
That's not the same window you saw Mothman in, is it? That was at a different location, right? The one you're at now, that window, that's not the same window. It was a different window, right?
Oh, right. Yes. This is in Columbus, where I'm here in wonderful Columbus, just a short drive from Point Pleasant, where we did have a house across the river when I was a kid. And we have the family cemetery there right above Point Pleasant, the Gibson family cemetery, which is my grandfather's. And yet, people don't consider me to be a resident of Point Pleasant or that my story has any relevance whatsoever. I think they simply don't believe it. And I can understand that. My story is too far out. It's like,
is it because of the photo? I mean, I have a copy of that photo. I mean, it looks like a weird bug head in your window. That's huge. Like, I mean,
yeah, it looks like one of the heads behind you. Kind of.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. One of these.
I don't know that it's that. I just think it's, and I'm talking about the researchers. I'm a contactee, you might say, right? I go to the researchers, none of them are interested, don't understand it. Probably can't read the book because today's researchers all seem to be more like actors or podcasters. They're not really, the old style academic researchers. So this stuff is just going under the bridge. It has been, and all I can do is just try to do more stuff, get it out there, and then hopefully someday somebody will pay attention to it, because this is what John Keel wanted. John Keel wanted more attention paid to the contactees, not the researchers. We don't have to hear about what the researchers are doing every day, where they walk their cat, whatever it is, every day. It's researcher. Are we great? No, we need to study the contactees, and if one of them is willing to devote their entire life to trying to document everything, that should mean something. So,
I know a day or so ago I went to Dennis Reno's page, and he's a cartoonist, but I saw a post that said basically he left ufology because of all the Trumplegooches. I think that speaks volumes. Like, I hadn't been to his page in a while, and he had it posted up, and he was talking about why he left it. But yeah, it's insane.
I have a grand conspiracy to how we got to where we got to today, going back to the 60s at that New York UFO convention, which Eugenia went to and wrote about. And some of the things she said, and then another person that was on the board of that UFO convention told me some things recently. So it's all starting to kind of come together what happened. And at that convention, there was a threat to ufology, and that threat was John Keel. He was going to speak for the first time. And so this was bad news because Keel was going to like shut. He kind of shut things down because he's not saying they're from outer space. Mm-hmm. And the money's in the outer space. And I think it was decided at that board meeting that they stole people from people's rooms. Men in Black rifled through everybody's stuff, stole all kinds of stuff, particularly Keel's stuff, Keel correspondence, so that they could use it later to spy on Keel, right? And the people that he was friends with. And it was decided, I think, that they've got to beef up the cryptozoology and get Mothman into cryptozoology, because once Keel spoke, it was really apparent this is a creature that's not just lumbering through the woods, it's giving people prophecies. And it's a serious issue with a great potential for military stuff even. It's like, and so they had to put the clampers on the Mothman, so they came up with Bigfoot and introduced it after a few months. And then they got Mothman in, and then they created cryptozoology, and they got Mothman into cryptozoology where they could sort of hide him away and keep him away from the UFO people. So the UFO people today have known nothing about Mothman, and they don't care. And that's really sad, because this is the key to everything, is the interplay of the two things. The UFO is the energy that's coming from them, making you see things or experience other beings. And I think that's just been kept up until now. And well, I forget what the last thing you said was. It made me think of that, but maybe if you can remember, it was
about Dennis Reno and the Trumplegooches and the UFO.
Yeah, to the Trumplegooches, yes, because somebody decided, I think it was around 2011, because Roger Stone was in my group watching us and picking up conspiracy memes to use. And I think they decided they could use these memes and sell them in a right-wing way and build a demographic through the conspiracy groups and UFO groups and JFK groups. And this is documented. He did it. I mean, it was a big operation, and he got all these people on board with the MAGA bullshit. And they've now got a voting demographic that's significant of people that believe in the paranormal and are like super right wing. And these people could be used at some point for political action or anything else, not just voting, but the Bigfoot guys are the guys with the guns, and I don't, you know what I mean? What if there was an army of Bigfoot hunters who, the president called up to go on a special mission to, wipe out somebody, and they would go do it? I don't know. It's potentially scary, although at this point it's not. Right now it's just, let me take that back. About 2016. The death threats started again. And when I first started the research in the 80s, which was conspiracy, it was dangerous. I mean, there was Gary Webb and guys like that were getting murdered. Investigative journalism was dangerous. And it continued on. And in 93, I got really paranoid because I had read the Mothman prophecies, and I'm putting it all together. And I'm writing about it on the octopus list. There was the conspiracy list was the only thing going at the time. A couple of those. There wasn't really any UFO groups, I think. But X-Files writers were on there, and they pulled a bunch of stuff out of my story and used it in the X-Files. So when I was watching the X-Files, I was freaking out. I'm like, what the hell? This is like my life story. What's going on here? How did they know this? How did they know Harriet had the 2 marks on her neck and the virgin birth she had, which she thought was sperm taken from me and put into her by the aliens? And that was just, I really was, I don't know how I got through it, but I did. And then 10 years later, I meet Keel. And then by that time, I've gotten all caught up on everything he's done. So I'm able to just like get right in there, and we're able to do some stuff together, getting Eugenia on board. Because again, she had been warmed off with Keel and didn't know that he was a nice guy. How can you say that John Keel is dangerous? He's like one of the funniest guys on earth. He was. So,
Hey, real quick, there's this guy, Richard Allen Miller, on. He's been on Coast to Coast. He's like this scientist, I say mad scientist, but he claims, and this is what he says, that he was who Fox Mulder was based on, and he was involved with the X-Files, and then that Chris Carter took over. But this dude is on all these shows, and he's really smart. He was also Timothy Leary, one of Timothy Leary's patients, and has like the school for gifted children. It's weird. But this dude, he reminded me of the drunk Rick and Morty, the scientist. But he, and it was crazy because he kind of screams when he talks. But I swear during it, he said he's met an alien in a mech suit. But he was a guest not too long ago. Just weird X-Files tie-in.
everything gets copied. Everything gets copied in very short order. Everything. It's happened so many
I'll
times.
just send it to you. You'll get a kick out of it. It was weird.
Doesn't mean I'm not going to shoot him down because I have something.
I don't know if he was or not. I don't know. I think.
Well, this thing I just said was a story like that. I don't want people shooting it down because that's how it happens in Hollywood. That's how they get their ideas. In fact, the thing in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, where the kid is drawing the Devil's Tower, that's me. And it went through Gray Barker to John Keel to J. Allen Hynek into the movie. And so when I saw that movie, I freaked out.
I'm thinking of a weird Bigfoot story I want to tell you real quick while I'm thinking of it because I just remembered it, but I'll tell it fast. There was a Bigfoot guy on it. Right now I can't even remember his name, but he told this weird story about that show, about that real incident, Escape from Dannemora, which Ben Stiller did a TV show on Showtime about, and it has Benicio del Toro, Paul Dano, and Patricia Arquette. And it's based on a true story about these prisoners banging this woodshop lady, and she's kind of sleazy and married and whatever. But anyway, they con her, and she helps them escape somehow. But it's Ben Stiller's first show. He also just did Severance, which was really good. He's like helping out some stuff. But anyway, he told this story where the police were looking for the 2 suspects, and supposedly they really came across 2 Bigfoot and killed them. And while they were looking for them, and then later it led to them killing one of them. But it was just this weird story about Bigfoot thrown in there, that the cops accidentally killed 2 Bigfoot during searching for these 2 at-large criminals. The thing really happened. It's a good show on Showtime. It was crazy as hell, but Benicio del Toro is like slimy, and he sees this guy banging her, and he's like, well, I'm going to get in on this, and they're both doing Patricia Arquette. And the lady that played her is mad at Ben Stiller. She seems kind of kooky. I don't know her, but who does? But anyway, just a weird Bigfoot story. I thought about it that you probably like to hear. But go ahead. I believe, they do stuff. They steal stuff. I mean, they do it.
Oh, they do. I know they do. I know other people they've stolen stuff from. So
The Bigfoot steal stuff?
Yes. Pancakes and peanut butter.
Yep.
When I was hanging around Kiwoni last Lapsaritis, I was convinced that the Bigfoots were coming around my house and leaving stuff.
I've interviewed him. He's a trippy dude for sure. I haven't talked to him in a long time.
And when I was a kid, before the Bigfoot craze, I had these Bigfoot outside my house that, because they were coming to me in my dream before I fell asleep. I don't know. It might have been sleep paralysis, but certainly seemed like these Bigfoot-like creatures were trying to tutor me. This would have been a little bit after Mothman, probably. But then I saw this is a key issue, I think thing that I've figured out of late. I don't know if it's correct or not, but it's the idea of the second thing I saw coming out of a tree. What was that? 1973. Lots of lights being seen in the area. The photograph of the thing in the window. There was like that's when the Harriet thing happened. Where was I going with that? Where did I start on that one?
Yeah,
I do this. I lose track because I got like 20 things going on.
Me too. Well, if you remember, tell us. I know, but we were talking about the. We definitely want to get into the infiltration and the pan situation.
Oh yeah, the pan situation.
The what?
The pan situation.
Are you talking about the rebirth of Pan?
Well, I was going into the Manson thing real quick, and I won't.
Okay, go into the Manson thing.
But that is the presence of an evil thing in the area that I saw and somebody else saw. And yet Mothman was contacting a couple of people there. Indrid Cold was coming around. There was the 911 precognition that came from the space intelligences to Tommy. And he said Mothman too. And then that whole experience where he transmitted that vision to me so I could see it briefly. And so this is where that school was burned down. The Indian school, which became a white school, burned down by Charles Manson. And something happened there. Either the evil spirit that I saw went into him at that place, or by burning down the school and killing a kid or two, he created a negative energy force like Bob in Twin Peaks, that was transferable to Tex Watson, who then did the Tate LaBianca murders in an effort to destroyed the peace movement. Now, the missing piece here is Sarah Jane Moore, who was Charles Manson's best friend growing up. She was an agent provocateur, FBI informant, Army intelligence person, who shot at President Ford and was involved in the Jonestown thing and a bunch of other things, who probably was his handler. And that whole story has to be suppressed and is continually suppressed, even though I try to tell people about it. But the Garuda is there because of this dark, evil thing. And I now have to say, I don't know that was Mothman I saw. I don't think it was, because the same thing I saw has been being seen in Point Pleasant recently. It's a stick figure, and it could be the vegetable man. And it's being seen in the cemetery in Point Pleasant. I talked to the lady who's seen it. We're seeing the exact same thing. Maybe it's got something to do with the cemetery or dead people, spirit of dead people. But this subgenius Bob, well, I worked briefly on Twin Peaks as just a gopher. And I knew the guy who played Bob in Twin Peaks, who was a hippie. In the show, he goes from a hippie to being like the great citizen, Leland Palmer. But Manson did the reverse. He started as supposedly a good kid who wore a suit and everything, if you've seen those pictures, to being a hippie. He did the opposite, but same idea. And I suggested to the first Bob, because he was sick, and they were going to move Bob into somebody else. And I said, it should go into subgenius Bob. You know subgenius Bob? And he's like, yeah. So that's what Leland Palmer was. He was kind of like the subgenius Bob with the pipe and everything. They were playing
Bob Dobbs.
They were playing Leland off as Bob Dobbs.
Oh,
and
interesting.
That was my little contribution to that. So in these little ways, you can have an impact if you just sort of have a beginner's mind, as they call it in Buddhism. You know, that 93 period, I don't know if you guys need to take a break or something, but that 93 period, I was in a Buddhist group. I was about to become a Buddhist priest. But I got freaked out because everyone was doing all these prostrations and all this. It was like too much, and I just felt like it wasn't my style. But I met the guru and had a wonderful visit with him, and he told me, he heard my story, and he says, you need to write, you need to challenge yourself, get out there and write your story and go wherever it takes you. And he didn't care if I stayed in it or not. And that night I had this dream of being in the tree of lineage of that lineage. I saw him, Sangak Shida, and other teachers that he had in this dream, and I'm floating through there, and it's like this wonderful experience. And I really feel like I entered like whatever little teeny level of enlightenment you can have at the very bottom, like where you're just in tune with nature somehow. And I think the observation of nature is key. And that's what I did as a kid more than anything else, was observe nature, have these moments of satoris, and these guide you later and help you be open-minded. And like the cryptozoologists like to claim that they're skeptical but open-minded. But I don't think somebody who's never had an experience can really come in. Sure, they're objective because they've never had an experience, but does that really qualify them to be the best person to be talking about the paranormal? Maybe it's the paranormal experiencers who really know more and are more open-minded or more objective even, because you've seen it. So, and then you go back to normal reality, you compare, you think about it, you try to come up with a way that it could happen, why it happened, and it guides you forward. But you were asking about, what was it?
The pan situation.
I don't know that much about the whole tradition, really. I just have a story about the rebirth of Pan that I think.
Yeah.
That's what we mean.
I think that's what we were talking about.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. Just when you're ready.
The timing of it, 83, pardon me.
What is outside your window? Is that a reflection? Like I saw something glowing out there. Like I guess it might be a street light or something.
Yeah, there's all kinds of paranormal phenomenon happening right out here. Christmas lights. And the
Cars going by.
Yeah, this is the guy that owns the Ferrari and a bunch of cars like that.
Yeah.
He lives in a very modest home, but he's got like Lamborghinis and stuff.
Nice.
And he runs them in the middle of the night. I don't know why, but Pan. Okay, so I think, without saying who Jim Brandon is at the moment, I think Weird America and the Rebirth of Pan were attempts to cash in on what John Keel had done. Because the stuff in those books is all John Keel, really. With the addition of some vignettes where somebody drives to a certain park where there's bones to be found or something, some rock formation, stone fort, and that could have all been added later. But it's basically Keel and why did it stop? Why did Jim Brandon suddenly shut down shop in 1983?
Is he dead?
I
mean, so the author. I mean, I know there's more to the story, but is that person dead? Like, is it listed as a dead person?
I don't know, but the first publication location, because I happen to have the very first one, Dunlap, Illinois. It's not Colorado. It's not Arizona. It's Dunlap, Illinois, which is close to a prominent cryptozoologist's home and a prominent archaeologist who's well known in the UFO field at a bookstore nearby.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know if I need to spell it out.
Does he have a museum?
Cryptozoologist from Illinois, Southern Illinois.
Yeah.
But what is the book? I mean, is it like just like a crypto pan? I mean, what is it? It's just weird. I'm trying to figure out what the hell is it.
Um,
And there's weird white power.
Well,
stuff
I'll
in
be
there.
honest. I mean, when you said, I mean, I got a copy of this book. I was working in the early 80s. Like I started working about 83 or 84 at a alternative women's bookstore in Kansas City, Missouri. And we got a copy of this book in the mail as like a sample. And I remember reading it and thinking to myself, because I had read John Keel, I knew who John Keel was. I'd been reading John Keel for several years at that point. And I remember thinking to myself, who the hell is this guy? So when you told me that Andy needed a copy of it because I had gotten rid of my
Send me a
copy.
PDF. Yeah.
Yeah, I had never ordered it for the store because I could instantly tell that it was crap. You know what I mean? And so, but I'd gotten rid of my copy of it years ago, and so I can't even remember. Did you give me the PDF of it, Jeffrey? I can't even remember.
I didn't. You gave me a PDF of it.
Okay, I got it from somewhere. I don't remember from whom.
KKK? I'm kidding.
No.
But what is it? Is it like a?
Well, it's really a bad derivative. It's a badly written derivative of Keel and what's his name?
Childress?
George Hunt, whatever the hell his name is, Williamson or whatever. In other words, it's kind of like this weird stylistic combo of a couple of types of genre of book, and it's just full of crap. I mean, I reread parts of it since I sent it to Jeffrey to send to you, Andy, and I've reread parts of it. I was like, this is as bad as I remember. This is awful. But anyway, go ahead.
Is there like pan cryptid sightings?
He takes certain things that he's trying to affect Keel's style, is what he's trying to do. But Keel actually has some real ideas. You know what I mean? I mean, he always has real ideas and real insights. And here, and all what's going on in Rebirth of Pan is this weird kind of. It's pseudo cryptic. The style is pseudo cryptic, and there's these weird kind of racist assumptions, and it's just bizarre. I mean, I'll let Andy talk about it because he can probably describe it better than I can. It's just a mishmash,
It's been a long time since I read it. And I don't have it. So you're sending me one, maybe?
Well, I thought that Jeffrey had sent you one.
You had a PDF, yeah.
Yeah, I sent you a PDF of it.
She sent a PDF.
Yeah, I don't remember anything overtly racist in it, but it has been attributed by Lauren Coleman to a racist.
Right.
I don't see how that racist William Grinstadt would ever write a book like that. He didn't write anything like that. He didn't have an archaeology background. And why would he care about the paranormal? It just makes sense.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. It's just badly done.
I think he's a convenient foil, and I don't think he's not alive anymore. And Jim Brandon never existed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe Keel said something when it came out, and they moved the location of the publisher to Colorado, where said archaeologist who had the bookstore was actually from.
Mm-hmm.
And then they changed it to Arizona, where said archaeologist from Colorado opened a second bookstore in northern Arizona. Said archaeologist is now making big bucks on the circuit.
Right. So
five figures per night.
So do you think that then what you're saying is that said archaeologist, and because this book, of course, in the last 5 or 6 years has just popped up again. To me, it became a rather obscure book, right? So the attributing of it to this individual by this individual is disinformation. It's disingenuous, essentially. Okay,
Absolutely.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. And I don't know how much I want to get into Lauren, but he's done a string of things that are interesting over the years. And I try to remain, lighthearted about it. But although sometimes it's pretty nasty, some of the things that go on. And you can't attribute everything to him, but he certainly seems to be the leader of a large group of young people. He's really organized over the years. He basically stopped writing books 15 years ago and just went into social media, started the Twilight Language blog to counter what I was doing with Keel and Eugenia, because before that, Lauren had not done any of that synchronicity writing at all, other than he now claims he wrote The Name Game by Jim Brand, the article. But he doesn't admit to the book. It's what it seems like if you read his rebuttal to the racist claim.
Right.
One of his long rebuttals with pictures and things in it, which really creates like a subtext that's going on. So if he says one thing in this line, the picture may counteract it. And so it ends up sounding like he doesn't apologize for anything.
What's interesting now that I think about it? See, I was the book buyer at this store. And so I would get, the sample books. It was only about a month. I can't remember exactly when it was. It wasn't that long after I got this copy of The Rebirth of Pan in the mail. And it wasn't 1983. It was like 1984 or something, that we got a sample of Mysterious America in.
Yes. And that's the same. That's a rewrite of that.
Exactly. And I read it too.
Which is a rewrite of Barry Fell. America.
Exactly. You're exactly right. And I remember I read Mysterious America, and I thought, this isn't good either. So I didn't carry through one of the books, because I just, they're
dry. There's a dry quality.
Well, and not only that, it's like you read them and you think to yourself, so it's kind of like you're not actually interested in pursuing. I mean, the books do not generate any interest in what's going on. Whereas if you read Keel, for example, you're like, whoa, what the hell? And he grabs you, and so anyway, I mean, that's, I didn't put those two together because I didn't realize they were related before.
So we're putting some things together about 1111 and XX and important stuff that really became memes with Keel and Eugenia. And Lauren quickly builds a sync community of hundreds of people. I don't know how he did it. Young graphic designers, a lot of them from New York. And they're still out there today with their Secret Sun by Chris Knowles. Knowles started his blog in 2007 to, I think, he's friends with Coleman. Coleman is friends with all the guys that I mentioned tonight. If I mention any shenanigans, they're all like this, it seems like.
Like grooms people, right?
He's really active. He's really active, man. He's out there. Yeah. Somebody told me the other, Tyler Strand goes, yeah, I was at a something, and I'm in the back of the thing, and Lauren's there, and he comes up and finds me, and wants to hobnob and everything. And Lauren did that in the late 2000s. I had already, because I'm on the West Coast, I had already made friends with all these West Coast researchers. Lauren didn't like that, and he immediately started buttering them up online and reviewing their works and stuff, and became friends with them. And within a year or two, they were all no longer my friends. I don't know how it happens. Well, he spread rumors. One of the things that happened in 2006 when he destroyed my website, I think. It's a long story, but attacking my website with porn because the only thing I was doing at that time was criticizing some of the things Lauren had done. My website gets attacked. But he starts calling it synchromysticism. What I was doing was synchroconspiracy. So he calls it synchromysticism, has one of his young college student helpers coin the term. And then they all run with this new thing. And of course, I can't get a word in edgewise on synchromysticism sites at all. They're like, again, the most hated man in paranormal. So it's just, I have notes. There's so many cool things that happen. I'm going to write about them because it takes a timeline to really see it and to see that you did this thing and then there was a reaction from the other side. But no doubt, going from never writing about the supernatural. In fact, Lauren was anti-supernatural until 2004. He was absolutely no. Mothman is just an owl. Bigfoot is just an ape. I mean, you can go back and check, and you can see it. And that's a flip-flop from the late 70s when he got his book deal through Keel. He wrote like Keel. So he did a couple of books that are just like Keel. I don't know how they did, but literally within a couple of years, 1980, he started feuding with Keel because Keel had criticized something. And that just kept on going, man. And so it's, he jumped on when Keel finally made it on to Art Bell. Lauren jumps in the show at the beginning and hijacks it for like half an hour talking about himself and stuff. I mean, just over and over. When the Mothman movie came out, Lauren claims he was working for the film company, which isn't true. But he wanted to sell his book that he came up with real quick. You got to remember, this is his only chance, probably. He's thinking, only chance that a cryptid is going to be in a major motion picture. He's got to make some money off of it. And I guess he did, but there's nothing in that book that adds anything to what Keel had done before. And probably some disinformation is in there too. But like, for instance, the drawing of Linda Scarberry of Mothman, that's Lauren's drawing. I can almost guarantee it because that's his style of drawing. Because if you go back to some of these books, like you're mentioning, Mysterious America, he has his drawings in there. It's the same drawing of Mothman with no head and red eyes in the chest, looking like a demon. And he sold that relentlessly for years on the Mothman Lives list. This concept and this again is a turnaround because it was always just a big owl until he decided, he saw that our work in this supernatural area was catching on. He starts to catch on and do it himself with making Mothman a demon. It's now okay to say it's a demon. But at the same time, he would go on a show over here and say Mothman's a demon, and over there he would say it's just an owl. And nobody ever questioned the great difference between the two.
It's definitely weird. And I know you talked about the tying them in with the Chicago sightings and everything with Lon Stickler. My good friend Lonnie, he loves me so much.
Is Lon Strickler one of your better friends? Is that what you're saying?
No, he's not.
No,
he was on the show, and we got along fine. I mean, it was a cool show and everything. One time he remote viewed some house I was at and said there was ancient evil there or something, and it was weird. I forget why, but he got mad at me because that Brett Butler actress, comedian lady, she's actually in Walking Dead recently, and they cut her head off and put it on a pole. It's pretty interesting. But she used to be Grace Under Fire or whatever the crap. She wrote me about my light beam stuff, and it was friendly talk. But when Hurricane Michael happened, I sent out an email, and I don't do that like Gene Steinbeck. I send one out. I don't even do it anymore, but I sent it out because I was in a crazy situation and had to move.
Gene stopped doing that.
Did he? She got mad and just like was mean. like that Brett Butler. But I said stuff to her about suck a puss two down in my fart box, and Lonnie found out because he's her friend, and he was like, don't talk to a lady like that. Apologize, blah 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 blah. It was just weird, but he got we don't chat anymore. But of course, there's the whole Allison Jornlin weirdness that happened where he was doing crazy stuff and threatening her and weird stuff. But I know we had talked about the connection to the Chicago sightings and him and everything. But that weird Brett Butler thing, she wrote me about light beams. She collects weird pictures and says there's light beams, and maybe they are, maybe they're not. I don't know. But she got mad because I sent out that email to her email and was rude to me. But anyway, Lauren Coleman once showed up on Facebook and gave me $50. And I've never talked to Lauren in private ever. And I don't even know how he saw it, but he showed up, gave me $50, and I just said thanks, and I didn't write him or nothing. I took the money and ran, but I thought it was kind of weird because, like, where did you see that at? But at the time, I didn't know. It was just weird. But he does kind of show up with a lot of people.
He keeps close monitor. He closely monitors the field. Yeah. If somebody dies, he's on it, and he's got the obituary out, and then he's contacting the estate for any extra books they might have left over. That's how he amassed that huge collection of books he has.
Is the Chicago?
He was all over Linda Godfrey. Jeez.
Was he?
Oh, yeah.
He did it to Keel. He did it to Barker. I mean,
he was mean to Linda Godfrey. I'll kick his ass.
No. What I'm saying is he was all over her death. I mean, it was like boom.
Oh, okay.
Right. He's got them already written out, I think.
I'm upset about that.
Oh, about Linda? Yeah.
Rosemary Ellen Guiley, another cool lady that passed away. Just crazy. But what can you tell us about the Chicago thing? Is that a hygiene?
Well, going back to Lon there, he says he started his work, I think, in 2006, which would coincide with that date of when they're trying to create a synchromysticism thing, which really turned into Grinning Man and Slender Man, and then somebody died, and then that's all shot to hell. Like, they do these things, irresponsible things, right? And it was all those designers who were in the sync community coming up with images of a Grinning Man, and it was so convincing that people started believing in the Slender Man. And this is the key to a lot of what Lauren does and the other guys do. They create a flap that they can write about. For instance, right now there's signs in Hollywood. My daughter took a picture of one where Lauren is soliciting Mothman sightings from Hollywood right now. And the other guys involved in the Chicago thing were like gaming Google to get all the site. It's like there's a thing about, and J. Allen Hynek started this. I just found out something. Keel was talking about Hynek and how he took this. He controlled the sightings. Like, they all came into Chicago and he had control of them. And so whoever controls the sightings has leverage. And so this is what they did, except they didn't have real sightings. They're all made up, all of them. I think all the Chicago ones are made up. They're all the same writer. Some of them are certainly from the same IP address. Lon was part of this. He's close to Lauren. They advertised on it for each other. But Lon's site didn't really get going until 2011, I think, or 10. To get the Chicago Mothman thing going. So he started it right before the Chicago Mothman, his blog, right? And then that's one of the first sightings. And it's the same day I was on Coast to Coast for the first time. And it was the same day that Lauren took me down from Wikipedia, from the Mothman page. He was so pissed off, he took me off there. And we know it's him because it's his thing. All the records are on Wikipedia. You can see who edited what out. You can follow their IP to the other things they posted. And you'll find that person heavily edited on Lauren Coleman's page all the time. And a bunch of other pages. Like, it was unbelievable. It's hundreds of pages that you could follow this person to, where they were saying, when Jerry Garcia died, Lauren Coleman was there in the beginning of the obituary, like, or on the Wikipedia page. He was friends with Lauren Coleman. Like, what? Who? You think anybody that cares about Jerry Garcia? I don't know. It might have been some other rock star like that.
That's weird.
I think it came down. They took it down. They took it off. And they recently took off a bunch of things he had said about being part of the Mothman movie. there's, you can see in there where they're commenting and they're saying this guy's a sock puppet. He's got this IP and this IP and this IP, and we need to do something about it. So this manipulation of the whole field, fake flaps, fake reports, fake history. Rewrite the history to lean it toward cryptozoology. It's like a big mission he's been on all this time. And I remember some of the early papers, they were secret about what they were going to do to change the field. They were going to get rid of all the supernatural stuff. No supernatural creatures, make them all normal. Well, I threw a wrench in that when I started making the supernatural, and then he's like, no, we got to admit that it's supernatural a little bit, right? And so that's the only way I think I have any effect, is that if something catches on, they have to like scramble to take advantage of it. And at the same time, they make money off of it. They'll be dissing you, privately, so that it's just the weirdest thing.
So that
no one will ever find out where they're getting their ideas.
Right. Well, and it's impossible for you to profit off what they're profiting off of. So, or what they're doing. Yeah.
But we've caught it. We've caught some. You might be doing a book on it, although it's already. But I'll tell you this: Bill Kuselis found out. He's the one that realized the timeline that the first sighting was when I was on Coast to Coast. And so Lauren must have been like, oh, we got to get another sighting thing going here, because Andy's moving Mothman to Charleston. We can't have Mothman moving to Charleston, because that's not going to benefit any of my team who covered the rest of the country. I don't know. But let's put it in Chicago. And if it sells, you'll get a lot more money than if you're trying to write about West Virginia. There's not going to be many people in West Virginia that would buy the thing. So let's make it Chicago. Now they're going to make it Hollywood. There's a whole lot you could say.
Layers. It's an onion.
Yeah.
It's an
Lots
onion.
of false things in those reports, and the gaming of Google, the I don't know. I guess that's enough on that.
And there was a weird time Lauren praised for the hairy man's secret life of Bigfoot while attacking you at the same time. Which I don't remember what it said, but I don't even know if it's still up. But
I actually messaged him on Facebook a couple of years ago, and I was like, why have you been after Keel all this time? And he wouldn't answer it. But he did say something like, it's nothing personal.
government
Okay. It's not personal, then what is it?
Any Bigelow ties. So,
guys say this to guys sometimes when they get caught, and it's like it's not. I don't know. Doesn't bode well, I suppose.
I know that it seemed like that Lyle Blackburn and stuff stopped talking to me because of something that happened. I don't remember, something about a Trans Am, or I can't remember, but they stopped talking to me because of something to do with that, all that crap.
Well, I saw him at the festival this year, and he had blocked me on Facebook. A lot of these people just block me, and they never say why. And I never find out what it is that people are saying. But if anybody wants to tell me, give me constructive criticism, I'll take it.
That's like the Adam Go Rightly thing with me. I heard something bad about him, and I'd just been in some argument with one of his weird friends, his weird Republican Nazi friend, Groucho Gandhi or whatever.
Right.
It was weird stuff. And him, we opened up at Ron Patton's store. We did interviews, and I helped him with stuff, and he just like throws you under the bus for nothing. It happens like dirt in these situations for sure. It's weird, but that's the only thing I could think of is I got in an argument with his friend about Obama.
Well, I think Steve Ward told me that Lyle thought Mothman was a demon. Of course, that was before I realized that Steve Ward makes up everything he says. So I mentioned it to Lyle or made a crack, and he blocked me. And then I apologized to him at the festival. I said, I didn't realize that was bogus information. And he unblocked me.
That's good.
He seems like a nice guy. I had my 72 Chevelle there, and we looked at the car for a while. Seems like an okay guy. He was the most talkative of the three Texas Cowboy guys.
Yeah, I've interviewed him a few times, but I think he blocked me. I don't know, unless he turned into an author page, which is possible. Sometimes they do that, where they just make that whole new author page or whatever and get rid of their account.
But Steve Ward came around trying to start trouble. That guy spread so many false rumors about me.
I interviewed him once.
I ripped off
a long time ago.
Keel estate. I ripped off the Keel estate.
I heard that. God, jeez.
And here you go, Steve. I just signed an extension on the contract with the estate. Okay. It's in writing. I will provide a copy to your employer, who is one of our vendors. And so any vendor might want to know if, the books that they're selling are legit, and we have the absolute written proof of it. So you might want to retract the statement, because when you go say that Keel's sister did this or that, he claimed that she asked me to buy back the contract. Like, okay, he's making up stories about her, making her seem vulnerable. She's not. She is a savvy woman. She knows exactly what. She's got other contracts. She knows what they're worth. She asked for she really, bargained for her side, and I ended up paying her what she wanted. And I think he claimed I only gave her $500 or something.
Some ridiculous thing.
It's tens of thousands, folks. You don't publish books by a major author without paying. It's just like, I can't believe you heard that. You heard?
I heard it. Yeah, I heard it. I didn't believe it because I know you, but and it doesn't make any sense. It was like, why he started arguing. I can't even remember what Facebook group it was on. Maybe it was on Barbara's group, 6 Degrees of Keel or whatever. I can't remember what it was. It was like several years ago, but I noticed that there was this whole thread that it was like a sub thread where they were trashing you about this stuff. And I knew because, you had shared with me some particulars at some point about the contracts. And so all I did was make a comment about, I was defending you. And there was like this pile on. And I was just like, what is wrong with you people? Do you even know how publishing works?
Yeah, they don't.
For Christ's sake, I was flabbergasted. I was so flabbergasted that I was just like, okay, you guys are too weird to even argue with, It was ridiculous.
But now we know why, when film crews come through, they don't look me up.
Right.
That's why. It's like, why not, Steve, if you want to debate anything, let's do it. I'll do it. I'll debate you anywhere you want. We can talk about theory. Like if you want to debate Mothman theory or supernatural theory, I'm fine with that. But I don't know that he knows that. He's got a certain, I don't know what's the word? A formula, like for his shows, and he's got the basic things. And my wife is very perceptive. And when she first met him, she's like, what is with him? He's too nice. He's way too nice. He was being really obsequiously nice to us. And he ended up getting a great deal on a shitload of books. He bought every obscure thing I ever published. And then suddenly turned around, like he had gone through them all, 1, 2, 3, and looked for stuff. Like he was looking for stuff that he could claim was a mistake or some nefarious plot. And really, it's so obvious. And I've seen some of these threads you're talking about. And I know there was one like 5 years ago. He's on there with all my arch nemesis guys, Lauren and everybody else. And he just drops me under the bus, like, boom, makes up a story about one of the Keel books. It's being sold at the museum that had a mistake on it. The back cover had the wrong cover on it. Wasn't even my fault. And because I'm not responsible for everything that goes through New Sauceria. This was a cooperative of a group of designers who lived in my units, who, they had worked together, Microsoft and stuff. And it was like a pipeline of designers coming through, and they were all into this weird stuff too. And I was sort of like the idea guy. Well, let's do Gray Barker stuff. And then everybody on their own, just, copied, tried to come up with a new cover or something, and they would put it into the computer on the Amazon computer in a dead state. Well, at one point, I think it was 2014, 13, 14, you could have reprints made, I found out, really cheaply at Amazon. So if you had a public domain book, you could get them to scan it. But then it turned out they were only going to do it for like 2 more months. And I had a list of, I don't know how many books, 200 or 300 or something. And I just sent them all. Like, that was my only option, because I couldn't have afforded to scan all those privately or whatever. It was such a good deal. And so they're all sitting in the computer, put through by Amazon. I didn't even touch them, other than to send them. And they're sitting dormant in the thing. And then when it became CreateSpace,
right,
they reset the system, and some of all your books were turned on.
Oh.
But I didn't find this out for a while. It was sporadic. It wasn't all of them, but it was a lot of them. A lot of the dormant ones were on suddenly, and I didn't find out for months. And this caused a couple of problems where people thought I was trying to rip off their book. But think about it. There's no way to do that on Amazon. You cannot rip off other people's books. Amazon vets them. They vetted them when we send in the copies.
Right.
They vet them after they scan them in, and the AI goes over them. They'll ask you to prove. I had to prove my copyrights dozens of times.
Right.
And you can look this up. It's a real thing. They really did turn some of the things on. But, and I just tried to explain it to people. There was a couple people that got worked up, but I either paid them off or they were okay with just stopping, turning them off again. So there's nothing else going on like that. But old Steve-O is really something. He's gotten me involved in something with the Seth Breedlove folks.
Oh yeah.
So I'm glad you've heard these. That's so
yes. Well, yes, I have. Yes.
Now there's probably a bunch I don't know about, right? But I'm pretty psychic, and I can tell stuff. And this is another thing. People don't seem to think, they don't believe that you're really psychic. Anyway, and so when you come up with stuff in your research psychically, you can't explain it.
Right. It's just there.
Right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've done it too. I know. I know.
Where was I going? Where was that?
Seth Breedlove.
Oh, yeah.
Small Town Monsters.
Small Town Monsters.
And I can also, I don't know if I don't have a whole lot to say about the Newkirks, but Seth, let's see. They wanted to use some of my footage, but it was kind of at the end of they'd done a lot of their shooting for the first movie. They want some Keel footage, but they didn't ask me any of my opinions about anything. Just like every other film crew that's come through, they don't ask me to be involved at all.
Right.
And I've actually tested it out and tried to say, hey, would you like some help? And you can always tell that they're in on the thing from the beginning. They've already heard that you're whatever, bad news. Get me back on track.
Small Town Monsters.
Seth,
I like their movies. But
Seth,
I've interviewed them, but it's been a while.
I looked at their trailer, and it said that the Mothman started in Point Pleasant and moved out And all I did was say on Facebook, I probably shouldn't have done it on Facebook. I said, you might want to fix that because if it's in your trailer, because that's not true. It was the opposite. It came from, where I lived, down Point Pleasant. And this set off just a negative. I mean, I don't know why that would cause so much trouble, but it did. And he reacted negatively. And then his fans started jumping in, like you're talking about. They just pile on. And then his wife jumped on. And I'm thinking, oh, no, not the wife. When the wife jumps in on the conversation, you can't do anything. It's not fair to the guy, because if you say anything, you look like you're a woman hater, right? So
That's true.
do you just ignore her, or do you post something, or do you private message her? I private message, thinking that would be the best. That didn't work either. And I saw something about she was supports Zionism. I looked at her page. There's something about supporting Zionism, and I go, she was snotty or something in the response, and I go, well, how can you support what they're doing in Palestine to the kids there, or something like that? That was an honest question. Why? I'd like to know why MAGA people think that Mexican kids should suffer at the border. That was one of Steve Ward's comments on Facebook.
That Mexican kids should be tortured at the border, like punished. Did you freeze?
He's frozen. Somebody's frozen him.
There he is, unfrozen.
There you go. You froze.
Yeah,
Right
you
as you were saying about the Mexican kids suffering, you froze.
Oh man, they're in on it. They're like blocking me.
You froze.
Steve supported the Mexican kids being kept in the cages.
Creepy.
That pissed me off. And I said something, and he blocked me, and that's it. And then he blocked the Fricks, because the Fricks said, if you support the insurrection, just defriend, and he did. He supports the insurrection. Good luck with that, Steve.
Good luck.
One thing I wanted to say real quick, when you're talking about the wife situation, there's a guest on the show, and I don't think I may have said something about this. I don't know, it's been a while. But Jeff O'Brien, he writes these like nasty fiction, kind of gross, I don't know what the hell, horror books. But he came on my show, and he has a MUFON roommate, which is kind of weird now that I think about it. And I've thought about that before, if it had something to do with it, because we know I have a lot of trouble with them. But anyway, he came on the show and was the happiest son of a bitch this side of, whatever. Just loved it. Had a great time. The show was good. He seemed happy. Called him online talking crap about me, like UFO weird comments. And it was just shocking, because I thought the guy was my friend. He was on the show. But his girlfriend got involved, and I called her to him Worm Tongue, like from Lord of the Rings, poison in his mind. Next thing you know, Jeff O'Brien is on Facebook saying I'm sexually harassing her, and I never said one inappropriate thing. The Worm Tongue was the only thing I said about her at all. Next thing you know, I'm sexually harassing this girl. All these people start blocking me. Never said a damn thing to that girl that was inappropriate, except the Lord of the Rings comment. But anyway, it was just weird. So, I mean, I know how shit works.
Well, let me finish the Seth story.
Yeah.
So, meanwhile, on the list, the piling on gets worse and worse until there's a guy from Texas saying he's going to drag me behind his pickup truck. Right? They're threatening to kill me. And Seth doesn't say a word. Lyle doesn't say a word. Nick Redfern doesn't say a word. No one says a word about that. That's okay, as long as you're being tribal. Is that real? Anyway. And to my comment on the private message, Seth says, I'm calling the cops because of what you said about Israel.
Mm.
Okay, so now the story is, I'm sure the story now is I'm an anti-Semite. It's got to be. Have you heard that one?
I have not heard that one.
Right.
That one I have not heard.
But I get a death threat, and then I end up being an anti-Semite. I got a 2-for-1 package by trying to correct a minor fact in one of their Small Town Monsters shows. By the way, their first one, The Whitehall Beast, was filmed literally 4 miles from my family farm in New York.
Mm-hmm.
My cousins hang out in Whitehall all the time. They have friends there. They're all cops, but including my cousins. And the cops are the ones that are interviewed in the show. That's all bogus. My cousin says it's all bogus. There might be somebody may have had a sighting of something they thought was something, and then the rest of the guys just took it and ran with it. And I could have. It's just sad. They're missing out. These filmmakers who align themselves with the International Museum, they just come through and they treat it the same way every time. It's boring. I do think he did a good job. I think he did a good job on the second Mothman movie. Although, or both, no, the first one, I guess. The second one has witnesses in it that I know are lying. The witnesses in that show that I know, the people in my family know, and they know they're making it up. And it ends up with this kind of stuff where they're just making entertainment for Netflix with drone shots and eerie music and a bunch of stuff that half of it isn't true. And it just doesn't serve. It's not anywhere close to pseudoscience even.
Well, my understanding, based on even what Seth said when he was on the air, was that he doesn't believe that any of this is true anyway. I mean, he basically said that. I mean, I can't remember, but it was kind of like we were talking to him about it, and Jeffrey actually quizzed him and said, "Well, what do you think this is?" And I mean, he made some kind of comment about culture and folklore and stuff, but it was really clear that he doesn't think there's anything to it, really.
Yeah. I don't think Steve Ward believes in it. I don't think Lauren believes in any of it. So many in that New York group on the board of the 67 convention, they're all hoaxers and practical jokers. Jim Mosley, Tim Beckley, Greenfield is a bit of a hoaxer. Lauren was in that group.
I remember you posted that thing of Greenfield up on the.
I mean, I like Al. I don't have a problem with him. I think. I don't know. The secret cipher stuff seems a little irresponsible in the sense that you've got so many young synchromysticists who are focusing on that code stuff, and I don't think there's anything to it. I can't make sense of it.
Well, when I read that book, I understood actually what he was saying, but I actually know 2 or 3 of the inner sources, not inner like personal gnosis, but the esoteric sources that he's getting some of that from, and he's misrepresenting it. I mean, I was reading this and going, I know where this is from, and it's misrepresented. I don't know where he got it exactly, but he's not, but the sources that I've gotten it from are, I mean, and we are talking about mysticism and occultism here, but we're also talking about things that are transmitted orally, as part of oral tradition. They're not written down and really shouldn't be for a variety of reasons because of how suggestive they are. And you're not supposed to be given this stuff without a context, without a practice context.
Right.
And when I read that, I remember when I was reading in that cipher, that irresponsible for him to just be putting this in here because it's highly suggestive.
Keel described him as a great distractionist.
Are we stuck again? Or am I stuck again?
I can hear you.
Maybe I'm stuck.
What's going on?
I can hear you.
We hear you.
You both froze as soon as I started talking about how irresponsible it is.
Right.
So Lauren Coleman satellite.
Yeah.
That's too weird. It's like every time Eugenia started actually talking about stuff, things would happen.
Yes.
Seriously, it's so weird.
I collected I tried to collect all of my correspondence with her, and I hope to get that into a book someday.
Oh, that would be great, because she's like my fave. Which, by the way, I don't know if you know who Ben Roylance is. Do you know who Ben Roylance is?
Oh yeah, I sent him some books for his shop.
Okay, good. Because he I don't know if you know this, but he was able to get that huge cache of paintings from that guy in Maine who had gone in and purchased almost all of her paintings from, and he managed to, he went and got them. He has them. He has all of them.
Wow.
And so he
Did
is.
pay for him?
Huh?
Did he have to pay for him?
No, he didn't. The guy just gave him to him.
Who's the guy?
Well, here's what happened when
Doesn't
Eugenia.
he have a son?
Yeah, well, here's what happened when Eugenia died. Her son Ezra went to Christina Varga, who is an artist that I know here in the Hudson Valley. She lives in Phoenicia, and she and Eugenia were really good friends. Eugenia would go and talk to her, and as artists, they just kind of go and shoot the shit. You know what I mean? And so Ezra contacted her and said, I've got all of these paintings from my mother. Would you take them, or I'm taking them to the landfill? That is literally what he said. And she was like, oh my God, so bring them all. So he brought in I don't know, tons and tons of things. And so she created before the memorial service, which I attended, Christina did an exhibition of Eugenia with a lot of these pictures up. And some of them got sold then to various people, but there was this doctor who came from, in fact, I've got his name somewhere in my stuff, this doctor who came from, who was living in Maine at the time. And I had a conversation with him about 6 weeks ago. And because he's a doctor and he's kind of independently wealthy, he has made it sort of his business to save archives, collections of people's stuff. And most of what he's done has been printed stuff. But in the case of Eugenia, he bought just a bunch of her paintings from Christina, who didn't charge him very much for them at all, because, she just had them. Now, she's kept some. And she's kept a number of unfinished canvases that she, every now and then, she'll feel Eugenia around and she'll do what she calls a post-mortem collaboration with Eugenia. I actually have one in my bedroom just over here. Where she just adds to it. She doesn't cover over anything that Eugenia has done on the canvas, but she adds to it to complete it. But anyway, this guy, I guess this doctor was downsizing, and paintings take up a lot more room than books and papers, and have to be housed in a particular way. They have to be stored in a particular way. So he started making some contacts. I contacted me. He contacted Stephanie Quick. He contacted Ben. And Stephanie, of course, is too far away to do anything. And Ben and I talked a little bit about it. And Ben just decided that he would just go up and get them. And he got them.
Nice.
So they've all been saved. He's trying to figure out what to do with them exactly. I know that he's planning on making good photos and some copies of some of them, because Ezra was going to throw them in the landfill. So we seriously doubt there's going to be any copyright issues over it. I mean, we'll have to see, obviously. And
Right.
and Ben is pretty open. It's like if Ezra shows up someday and he's like, hey, these are my mom's things, Ben is like, okay. I mean, he's not going to argue with him about that.
I would love to have some. I was a little hurt that I wasn't on Stephen Miles Lewis's show about Eugenia, because he knows how close I was with her. But of course, he's one of Lauren's staunchest defenders.
I know.
On my list.
I know. I know. I thought of you.
And then Stephanie blocked me because she had me down, or she had Lewis down as coming up with synchro conspiracy. She was just misremembering, right? But I contacted her and I said, why? Well, what about me? And somehow that ended badly. I don't know. I think, again, I think what happened was back in the day when I was getting divorced, I wrote some pretty pointed things about my ex. And I think some people have been, some women read that and they probably think that I'm a jerk. But I was married to a malignant narcissist who, by the way, recently apologized. She actually tried her best for all the horrible things she had done. And man, it was horrible. Those years, like 2006, 2011, very tough for me. But I think there's an overarching, I think somebody may have called Eugenia and said, Andy's the devil. I think I know a person who might do that. It's the same person who would go on the John Keel list and say, Andy, you're damaged goods. Without any comment, without any, and then the same person, Jimmer Hardy, who said these things to me, goes and writes 2 books that are basically complete. One of them seems to be a theft of my story. And he's even got John Keel in it. Right. And everybody should know that Jimmer Hardy is Lauren Coleman, I think. I think it's pretty obvious. The writing style, the way he spoke to me before they kicked me off the list. The John Keel list is hosted by a MAGA guy, Jerry Ham from Ohio here, big MAGA supporter. He didn't like my politics. And I did an experiment. I actually told my wife, I said, I'm going to try to market the 12 books I have by John Keel, the compilations. I just want to try to post one a week. Just put it up there, the link to this book, nothing else, which people do all the time. It's like everybody's posting their latest podcast.
Right.
Well, it only took 2 before the MAGA guys started attacking me. Well, you're not being a good steward of John Keel's work. Well, the books were not chronological. All of them were chronological except one, right? They're just making shit up to try to make me look bad. And then nobody said anything. Somehow that I ended up looking like the bad guy in that one too, just for saying, no, you're wrong. Why, and I know who these guys are. So I'm not going to be nice to them because I've just had it with the MAGA stuff. I'm sorry. Too many years of death threats and all this shit. It's just grow up, But anyway, I think I got 10 of them in before I got booted. But it's always been like that. And I cannot right now, if I try to go on any of the big lists, like Appalachian cryptids and folklore, they won't post my posts. Anything I've done, doesn't matter what list it is. It seems like they've all communicated and bingo, boom, forget it. Andy, nope. So I'm almost at the point where I have to write under a pseudonym to get information out.
Yeah.
Were you on Coast to Coast before, weren't you, or no?
Yeah, I've been on there twice. But the first time I paid the price, like after the show, nobody could find out where I was because my thing was gone from Wikipedia.
It had been taken down.
It had links to my books on Amazon. Yeah, Lauren took them down. It very clearly was Lauren.
What is his power over Wikipedia again? He's an owner, or
No, he's not. He doesn't have any power over Wikipedia
Well,
specifically.
in the early days, it was pretty cowboy, Wild West, just like Facebook. And but Lauren was right in there at the beginning, and he got 5,000 friends instantly, and he got 500,000 clicks on his Twilight language blog within the first month. 500,000? No way. Where's the numbers coming from? Uh, Wikipedia entries, just a full scale, like you take over of the information, like almost, you know, like if you go to research Wikipedia, and if he's going to be there putting his hand on it. The filmmakers are usually his people. Um, I think he promises people a show. In fact, I know this because I've had some defectors come to me and say that he had hired them to be sock puppets for him on the lists, you know, like on the Mothman Lives list or Mouthy Talk, and basically offers stuff, you know, like if you get a book out, you know, I'll promote it or get you on a show or something. And so people are very susceptible to this kind of thing. Everybody in the field seems to want to be famous, and that's it. And it's not, that's pseudoscience has lost its way, right?
Right.
It just,
Well, and you know what's interesting is that you know, when I'm interviewed, wherever I'm interviewed, if it comes up, you know, like if I'm asked, like, what is my history in this field? I mean, I can tell people, but I always try, depending on how they ask and, you know, what kind of story they want. I always mention that I had left the field until I read your Mothman photographer books. And that basically your story resonated so much with certain things that had happened to me in terms of, you know, when you were over here and this was happening in this part of the country, this crap over here was happening to me. I mean, it was like the time frames were very similar, even though, you know, I didn't know who the hell you were, obviously. And I always make sure that I try to mention you, because it's like, to me, and I say this, credit where credit is due, you know, you know, and I can tell sometimes there have been times when I've said that on certain shows, and I can tell that the interviewer's a little uncomfortable with that. And it's like, it's just too bad. You know, I can tell, oh, you've heard rumors. Okay. You don't really know what's going on. But I always try to give you credit for that, because it's true. It's just true.
we don't know exactly what it is they're offended by.
I don't, because it's got to be a rumor.
It's well, the rumors are all just to destroy my reputation, but what is it in the material that they objected to? You never quite know. Is it the idea that you can use conspiracy as a spiritual path? Because that's kind of what I was saying. You can follow synchronicities and figure out investigative journalism, conspiracies, other stuff. That's pretty. That's like what Ingo Swann was doing, right?
Right, exactly.
And it seemed to be a thing that worked. I don't know if it would work now. It might be something that happens, can only happen at certain times in your life when the energy's right. That was one of the reasons to do the book, is to try to figure that out. What's the cycle here? Is there a cycle? And what's the relationship between contactees? And Keel was looking into that. And I think he actually was keeping tabs on me and the people on Woodward Drive. Our names couldn't be mentioned in any story, so that's why nobody knows who we are. But Keel knew through Gray Barker, who knew my cousin really well. And I was known as the kid that had seen Mothman from when I was young. So, and that's why I'm the kid in the Silver Bridge who wants Mothman to come back. Barker got that from my cousin, who told him that I was like that I thought Mothman was my personal superhero or something, you know, or God or something, because around the time I saw it, I had these Satori's, which might have happened anyway, but you know what I mean? Like, you don't know what causes what. Yeah. So, well, thanks for saying that. I've had people say that. I have people come up at the festival when I'm there, whenever I'm there, which isn't, I missed a few years there, but they'll say that. They'll say it was super helpful at a certain time when they needed it. And then they'll say things about the publishing. They'll say, hey, this guy at this festival is so appreciative that I had spent the money. It's cost a ton of money to buy these old Barker books, thousands, and then to get them to where other people could buy them for $17.99 instead of $1,799. That's the kind of scale we're talking. The books were that expensive. And rather than complain about antiquarians and how they gouge people, they criticize me just because, why? It's just so stupid. It's like they argue against their own interests sometimes.
Well, it's because they didn't do it. It's because they didn't do it.
Possibly part of that. But I would like to know all the stories out there. I'd like to catalog. So write into Jeff or comment here if you can. Can you comment on this anywhere for people? When people comment, send in your Andy Colvin rumors. I want to collect this. I'm dead serious.
Oh, yeah. I understand. I'll see if I'll go back and I'll see what I can find, because I know that I've got a few that I've heard.
No one has seen me before. Like, they literally, unless they watched that one John Keel special, or they live in Italy and saw the thing I did in Italy, they've never seen me before. They have no idea what kind of person I am. It's just bizarre. It's bizarre. How can you make John Keel into dangerous? Like the gentlest, funniest man I've ever met. Help me out here. Help me understand what Wham.
It's like I had the the whole. I don't want to get into it too deeply, but me and Jeremy Vaney were doing those little audio only interviews, and we were getting along and friends, and they would come to Church of Mabus at the beginning of it, and we'd sit in the chat room and type out questions to guests, Stanton Friedman and Nick Pope and all kinds of people that he would bring on. And then he got mad because I had Romanek on and started being a dick and talking about, this is a little puppet show. You think this is your little puppet show? Like, he's being just an arrogant dick. But yeah, Stan Romanek's a creep, but back then I didn't know he was on David Letterman. But anyway,
there's nothing wrong with having him on.
Yeah, he's a pedo though, but
I know
now he is. Now
he copied my photograph. He copied my Mothman photograph.
Did you know the weird, crazy story where he got caught throwing something and then he said it was aliens?
Oh yeah.
And he didn't know the cam was on him and it caught him throwing it with his hand.
Yeah.
He did the same thing on my show, but I didn't have a cam on him at that time. But he was like making noises and did the same thing. But anyway, Jeremy put out an embargo on me. When him and Jeff Ritzman tried to buy Church of Mabus and have us merge with Paratopia, and my gay web designer said Paratopia sounded like a gay bar. They didn't change the name. But Jeff was like, "Do you need money?" Jeff Ritzman asked me, "Do you need money?" I was like, "Yeah, whatever, that'd be nice." But we didn't end up doing it. But anyway, we had a falling out with Vaney and him, and Vaney just went to everyone and basically, besmirched me like they do with you. Same thing. That's what they do.
Well, they did it to me too. Richmond did it to me personally. I mean,
that's what they do. He's dead now.
He claimed Mothman was not true at all, and yet, who was writing about shadow people before Jeff Ritzman?
Didn't he have some weird thing that came to him? He claimed some creature that came to him that he called something like that. I don't remember. Him and Jeremy made a song about a hillbilly vampire making fun of me, a whole skit, and played it on Paratopia. I get called redneck vampire and hillbilly vampire like from people.
That's cool.
This is middle school. I'm sorry. This is so weird.
I like to suck blood.
You've got the right features for film, Jeffrey. You could be a vampire on TV.
Well, he refers to himself as the chubby Nosferatu. So.
Yes.
Very photogenic, man.
Gargamel from the Smurfs. That's me. But did you watch Wednesday yet? Andy, I haven't watched it yet.
Oh,
I want
in
to.
fact, yeah, we've been binging it because my wife is so much like Wednesday.
Yeah, cool. I'm gonna watch it eventually. My next project is Willow. Willow Upgood. Christian Slater's in it somehow. But
What's it
Mad
called?
Mark,
Willow?
yeah, the Disney just put out a new Willow series. You know, the Little Dwarf, or Ron Howard movie, the fantasy. It's a whole series, like a TV series. I'm gonna check it out. But Val Kilmer's not in it yet, but he may show up somehow. You know, he's Mad Mortigan.
Who's that weird guy from Back to the Future?
Christopher Lloyd.
No, the nerdy guy. He's got three names.
Michael J. Fox.
No,
Back to the Future. Biff. I don't know. Biff.
oh, he's real quirky. This guy's really quirky.
I have
Chris,
to look it up.
what's his name?
Christopher Lloyd. I know that he's a scientist.
No, I sold him some movie equipment.
Crispin Glover.
Crispin Glover.
He's a trip. He was in
He
the
is a great.
Guillermo del Toro. You know, did you watch Cabinet of Curiosities? That's pretty good by Guillermo del Toro, the Hellboy, Shape of Water guy. But there's a series. It's kind of like Tales from the Crypt, but Crispin Glover is in a Lovecraft episode. It's on Netflix. It's worth checking out. It's like little stories in each episode, but there's a weird occult Nazi storage building one where a guy buys the contents of a storage building. It's actually that dude from Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? One of the brothers. God, what's his name? I always have to look up that guy's name.
I got to know Dennis Hopper before he became famous again. Before Blue Velvet came out.
Tim Blake Nelson, yeah.
We were working on Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. And I had a lot of responsibility on that, even though I didn't get credit. But Hopper and I just he's so funny, and I liked him so much. And we actually wrote some of the parts in the movie, like on the spot, and I would like say something, and he would. He's just so fun. He was like a guy from West Virginia, just like so, down to earth. And we had this shared interest in photography, street photography, and Hopper's got a great body of work that he did. And he turned me on to Crispin Glover, because Crispin Glover's also into that stuff. And I sold him a bunch of stuff that I had from the photography days. But Glover was a hoot, man. What a weirdo. Love the guy. I still don't know what his deal is.
Willard with the rats. I remember that one.
The what?
When he's controlling the rats, Willard. He's in that movie with the rats. A remake. It's like a remake.
Oh, right.
But we got like 4 minutes. So anything you want to last 4 minutes? It's not much, but
can I drop any more names? I love dropping names every now and then just to keep people honest. It's like it's like you meet these amazing people. That's what I wanted to say in the book, the Silver Bridge book, the Bridging the Tragedy, was the positive aspect of Mothman. If it's the Garuda, which I think it is, then it's a positive. It's all positive. The Garuda will stabilize your practice. If you have a meditation practice, if you don't have one, you should do one to some degree. But I actually don't think that my story, some of the aspects of it probably are not for the public. And so I've given up trying to convince people to be interested in it, because the only people that need to hear it are going to look for it. You know what I mean? Like some of the stuff's too powerful. And I actually have heard a lot of people say that they think that the cryptozoologists, being a CIA creation, are trying to harness the power of Mothman in secret while claiming in public that it doesn't exist, or just messing up the story so much. So, of course, I don't know if they can do that, because it's a Buddhist deity, protects the Buddha. And I don't know how like stories. I have stories in my tale, like Harriet goes to a medium in Columbus who's 100 years old, doesn't know me from Adam, and says to Harriet, Andy Colvin's dad is here, and he says Andy has a protector. So that's just so far out. Now, but it's a good thing it happened, because I can always kind of fall back on that if I'm really messed up, like losing my bearings. I can remember that my dad said that, and my grandpa comes back and says stuff to people all the time. He supposedly pulled my sister out of a car wreckage. He spoke to the Kusalises when they were on on Bird Mountain during their session with the Ghost Box. Grandpa Ed comes through. He comes through to all kinds of people. And I think you mentioned that you know people that have that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Eugenia, yeah.
Yeah.
So turning the negative into the positive, post-traumatic growth is a real thing. It's only for people that can handle it. I don't think everybody's ready to hear that what this creature is really all about, or might really be all about. I think it'd be great if they looked into it. But again, I don't think everybody should necessarily know about it, because they would just mess it up like they mess up everything else. I think Graham Hancock was onto a worldwide civilization that worshipped the Mothman or the Garuda. That's what I think. There's a lot of evidence for this. Do we want to bring that back? I don't know. Who knows? It might not. It might just get twisted around by dark forces,
All right. Well, it's been great. Just let us know anytime you want to come back on. We always enjoy it. It's great having you on. It's been a great journey for sure.
Well, make sure your face shows.
Okay. Is it not showing?
No, what I'm saying is so people know that you exist and what you do.
Right. And there's my Mothman death mask from the plague back there. It looks like
right back there.
And out you're dead.
Leather made for me at the festival. $300 I had to pay for that bad boy, I think.
Wow.
I don't know. It's a lot.
All right. Well, we appreciate it. Thanks so much. And thanks everybody for listening. Listen to United Public Radio 107 FM New Orleans. Remember, Willow up, good bath mortar. Got to do it.
Hey, we didn't go 2 hours yet.
Yeah, we got to stop 5 till for some reason.
It says 147.
It's the JoJo rule. Oh, 147.
Check that out, man. You're early.
Yeah. What time zone are you there? I'm in Central.
He's Eastern.
Did we just have a time slip?
Yeah, a time slip for sure.
No, we just started late. It's supposed to be like, what, an hour and 50 minutes? Something like that.
Yeah, something like that. I'm supposed to stop 5 till because of the next show with JoJo. But yeah, just let us know. We'll get you on anytime, man. It's always a pleasure. So everybody, thanks for listening and have a good night. Good night, everybody.